Potlucks in the 1970s brought people from all walks of life together. Ordinary times, festive periods, Easter or Christmas. It didn't matter what time of the year it was, didn't matter who made what. Every table was decorated to celebrate, share, and enjoy comfort meals. Today, we're bringing back 25 forgotten potluck recipes from the 70s that showed up at all kinds of potlucks. Church gatherings, neighborhood parties, office events, and family get-togethers. And what better way to kick things off than with a recipe you saw at every potluck? A dish that made every gathering feel like a family reunion.
As there are cooks out there who adore it, I have my sort of classic coleslaw recipe that was my mother's from when I was a child.
Coleslaw. Every potluck needed a good coleslaw to cool things down. Some folks loved the creamy version with mayo and a little sugar. Others preferred the tangy vinegar kind with celery seed and sweet bell peppers. No matter the style or who brought it, coleslaw always showed up chilled in a colorful plastic bowl with a tight-fitting lids. You'd pile it next to fried chicken or barbecue, and that crisp, crunchy bite always made the heavier foods go down just a little easier. Tuna noodle casserole. Do you remember seeing this creamy comfort dish at every potluck?
Tuna noodle casserole is a classic. It brings you back to the 80s. It's so full of nostalgia.
Back in the day, you couldn't walk into a potluck without spotting a big dish of tuna noodle casserole. Wide egg noodles mixed with chunks of canned tuna, cream of mushroom soup, and topped with crushed potato chips or breadcrumb. The crispy golden top gave way to a creamy, savory interior that had everyone coming back for extra plates. Kids and adults alike couldn't resist this budget-friendly classic potluck recipe that stretched a can of tuna to feed a crowd. Green bean casserole. Sure, it's tied to Thanksgiving, but back in the 70s, you couldn't attend a potluck without seeing this classic dish.
Green bean casserole isn't fancy, it isn't trendy, but it is a classic.
Those familiar canned tender green beans mixed with cream of mushroom soup, topped with irresistible crispy fried onions. The magic happens in the oven, when it all baked together. The beans softened, the sauce got hot and bubbly, and those fried onions turned into a golden, crunchy topping. Simple ingredients, minimal effort, maximum nostalgia. Green bean casserole was the perfect potluck contribution for busy hosts and guests. Macaroni and cheese casserole. Before viral YouTube videos that teaches you how to turn boxed and processed stuffs into meal,
this is a recipe that Mama used, and she called it cheese and macaroni.
Homemade macaroni and cheese was at every potluck table. Elbow macaroni baked in rich, creamy cheese sauce, often with a pinch of mustard powder for a little kick, and topped with buttery breadcrumbs or crushed Ritz crackers. Folks would carry it in those colorful Pyrex dishes, still bubbling from the oven, and everyone would practically arm wrestle for the corners due to their perfect balance of crispy edges and gooey center. Scalloped potatoes. No potluck in the 70s was complete without a big pan of scalloped potatoes, thin slices of potatoes, layered with butter, flour, milk, and sometimes a handful of cheese, baked into a bubbling golden casserole. Beneath the crispy top were tender, creamy potatoes slices, swimming in a velvety sauce. A bit of grated onion added that extra something that had people asking for the recipe while helping themselves to more. Broccoli casserole. Back then, getting kids to eat their vegetables could be a real battle. But cheesy broccoli casserole was one of the sneaky way parents got kids to eat vegetables in the 70s. Tender green florets smothered in a creamy cheese sauce, often with a buttery Ritz cracker topping that folks couldn't resist. Sure, some cooks added rice or chicken, but let's be honest, it was that cheesy crunch everyone came for. You'd watch grown-ups heap their plates with it too, acting like it was for the healthy green. But we all knew better. Beef and noodle casserole. This was a crowd pleaser of a classic dish you'd see at every potluck. It was hearty and every scoop felt like a promise fulfilled. Ground beef browned with onions, tossed with egg noodles and tomato sauce, then covered in melted cheese. Now, that's a meal. Depending on the day, folks called it Johnny Marzetti, or even American goulash. Some versions had few green peppers and sprinkles of oregano for that Italian-inspired flavor. It was budget-friendly, filling, and there were no leftovers at the end. 7-layer salad. You knew it was a real potluck when you spotted a towering 7-layer salad.
Hey y'all, we are making food that our mother made for us and we grew up on.
Built up in a big transparent glass bowl to showcase its colorful stripes like a work of art. Layers of crisp lettuce, peas, celery, hard-boiled eggs, bacon, shredded cheese, and a good slather of sweet, tangy mayo dressing. The secret was letting it sit overnight so all the flavors could meld and mingle. Nobody dared to say no to 7-layer salad because it was as beautiful as it was delicious. The real fun was digging deep with your spoon and trying to get a little of everything in one bite. Potato salad. This was one of the potluck dishes that sparked friendly neighborhood rivalries over who made it best. Back in the day, you couldn't have a proper potluck without a giant bowl of potato salad on the lineup. Big chunks of tender potatoes mixed with mayo, mustard, celery, onions, and always a few chopped hard-boiled eggs for good measure. Some folks added sweet pickle relish, others added dill, and heaven help you if you said one was better. Served ice-cold in a giant Tupperware bowl, it paired perfectly with burgers, ribs, or just about anything coming off the grill. Ambrosia Salad. If there was a forgotten pot, a heavenly mix of mini marshmallows, mandarin oranges, pineapple, maraschino cherries, and shredded coconut, all folded into a sweet, fluffy whipped cream and sour cream base. Then let it chill until it was good and set. It usually came in a fancy glass bowl. Grown-ups called it a salad, but the kids knew better. It was dessert hiding in plain sight. Cocktail meatballs. Back then, no potluck lineup was complete without a big batch of cocktail meatballs. These bite-sized appetizers were made from a mix of beef and pork, cooked in a sweet sauce made with grape jelly and chili sauce.
This is the #1 cocktail meatball you'll ever try. Promise me you give this a shot. They are sensational.
It might sound like a strange combo, but it tasted so good. They were usually kept warm in a crock pot, often set up near the drink table. They were so popular, they would disappear faster than you could spear them with a toothpick. It seemed like everyone was always asking, "Who brought the meatballs?" Barbecue ribs. If you showed up at a potluck and smelled smoky BBQ ribs, you knew right away the organizers meant business. These ribs were fall-off-the-bone tender, sticky with sweet sauce, made with a whole lot of patience and love. Folks would wrap them in foil to keep them warm and unveil them like treasure on a big platter. You needed 2 hands, a stack of napkins, and no shame about getting messy. Around here, a little barbecue sauce on your shirt just meant you ate well. Ham with pineapple. At a good old-fashioned potluck, a baked ham with pineapple rings on top always made folks smile. You'd see those golden pineapple slices, sometimes with a cherry in the middle, all pinned down with cloves. The ham was brushed with a sweet glaze that made it sticky and delicious. It was easy to slice thin, so everyone could grab a piece. Best part was, it still tasted great, even after sitting out for a while. Perfect for a long afternoon of gist, laughing, and going back for seconds. Swedish meatballs. You knew it was a special kind of potluck when someone brought Swedish meatballs.
My mom is Swedish, and this is how she makes her Swedish meatballs. You'll never want to eat them at IKEA again.
They were not mistaken with their cocktail cousins. They were a little bigger, flavored with warm spices like nutmeg and allspice, and smothered in rich, creamy brown gravy you could almost eat on its own. They often showed up in fancy chafing dishes with a bunch of toothpicks nearby for easy grabbing. Folks would load up their plates, and more than a few would sneak some extra gravy onto their mashed potatoes. Can't say we blamed them. Baked beans. At a good potluck, baked beans were a labor of love. Folks would mix in bacon, brown sugar, ketchup, mustard, and a splash of vinegar to turn plain old beans into something rich, smoky, and downright hard to resist. They'd slow bake them until the edges got caramelized and the smell filled the whole hall. You'd spot them coming in heavy bean pots or big Dutch ovens. Scoop some onto your plate alongside several of the forgotten potluck dishes we mentioned before, like ribs, burgers, or a heap of potato salad. And you knew you were eating good that day. Corn casserole. Nothing said pure comfort at a potluck like a good homemade corn casserole. It was part cornbread, part creamed corn, and all kinds of good. It came together easy with canned corn, cream-style corn, sour cream, eggs, and a trusty box of Jiffy corn muffin mix, baked until golden on top with a soft, custardy middle. It wasn't too wet or too dry, just right. Corn casserole went with just about everything: fried chicken, holiday ham, and so on. It wasn't a real kitchen unless there was a box of Jiffy ready to go. Stuffing or dressing. Just like the green bean casserole, it was not only reserved for Thanksgiving back in the day, and depending on where you are from, folks might have called it stuffing or dressing.
I have a very controversial question. Is it called stuffing or dressing?
Stuffing.
Dressing.
Stuffing.
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 That's what I say.
Either way, you'd see it at potlucks too, next to ham or baked chicken. It was made with dried bread cubes, onions, celery, and a heavy hand of butter. It baked up crispy on top and tender inside. Some families got fancy with sausage or oysters, but the part folks mostly looked forward to was the warm, sage-filled aroma that hit you the second that foil came off. Potlucks were not just about food. They were about community, connection, and that special feeling you got when everyone brought a little something to the table. These 25 forgotten potluck recipes from the 1970s that have faded into history told the story of who we were. Neighbors, families, friends, gathering in church halls, backyards, and school gyms across America. At Back Then USA, we are all about keeping those memories alive. One bite, one story, and one video at a time. If any of these dishes brought back a memory or made you smile, we'd love for you to share your favorite potluck moments. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we celebrate the flavors, traditions, and heart of American nostalgia.